Now we're going to discuss something which is maybe even more engaging, and that is the Jewish value system of war. This is very, very important. Jewish value system of war. We're going to begin very simply. When to strike? When should we strike? Which this goes to Iran. So I'm not going to, by the way, I didn't say this earlier, but my intention is to give you the principles so that with the principles you yourself can determine when we should be doing things. And that's what we're going to be learning, the principles. And then you'll be able to apply it in any situation. We have a responsibility to protect the citizens of Israel. Well, let me say this. We have a responsibility to protect any Jew anywhere in the world. But we're talking about Israel tonight, so we're talking about protecting every single citizen, real Jew or non-Jew. We have that responsibility. If you're going to make a country, then you have responsibility to every citizen's safety. And we surely have a responsibility to every single Jew. And in the Torah value system, and I want you to understand that this is unique. We would think that this is everyone's value system. It isn't. And I'll demonstrate that briefly in just a few minutes. But in the Torah value system, human life is the top value. Now, I'm not going to discuss it, and I know some of you know about this. There is an exception. There are three rare exceptions of idolatry, adultery, and murder, where human life doesn't necessarily take the highest value. But outside of those, which are very rare circumstances, human life is the highest value. We unhesitatingly desecrate Shabbos for a life, to protect a life. Now, I want you to understand something. We are not permitted, hear me on this, we are not permitted to desecrate Shabbos to save a life. You heard what I just said? And I stand by this. We are not permitted to desecrate Shabbos to save a life. We are obligated to. We're obligated to. There's a very big difference, right? Very big difference. We're not permitted to. We are obligated to. In fact, as we have an advanced Shabbos class where we learned about this, if when someone is desecrating the Shabbos, they do it with hesitation that will lend to a person observing that when you want to save a life on Shabbos, you have to do it hesitatingly or in some backward way. You're not allowed to hesitate, because then you'll mislead people into thinking that there's some special way to desecrate Shabbos to save a life. You have to blatantly, explicitly, and as quickly as possible help the person. That means that we are obligated to desecrate Shabbos. So that means Shabbos is held to a very, very high standard in Jewish law, and yet to save a life, right? And that, by the way, that doesn't mean a person's life is literally in danger. It means they're in a position that it can accelerate to danger. For example, a woman who's in labor. That could evolve into, thank God to modern medicine it doesn't often, but it could evolve into a life-threatening situation, and therefore we violate Shabbos and make sure she gets to the hospital immediately. And that means this, and this we need to know this clearly. Anything, and anyone that is a threat to life is our ultimate priority to eliminate. Anything and anyone, according to Torah law, that is a threat to life, we must eliminate. Why? Because anything that threatens a life, we stop, even if it's another life, even if it's another 2 lives, even if it's another 3 lives that are threatening 1 life. This is not a numbers game. This is not a numbers game. Right? What's the word everyone uses? Portionality. There's no portionality to infinity. Our life is infinite. And if any number of people are threatening a single infinite life, this is not numbers. You threaten a life, we have an obligation. We're not permitted to. We have an obligation to eliminate your life. Let's read text number 4 on page 19.
The Torah instructs us, if one is coming to kill you, rise up to kill them.
Excellent. So this is a very important reading. It's very simple, very important. If one is coming to kill you, rise up to kill him first. Now, I want to say that the Rebbe, not here, that the Rebbe will make a point, you'll see in one of the videos, that it doesn't say that if one is coming to kill you, you should kill him first. It says you should rise up to kill him first. If your rising up is enough to eliminate the threat, that's all you need to do. If shooting the guy in the leg is enough to eliminate the threat, that's all you do. However, if the only way to eliminate the threat is to kill the person, you have an obligation to kill the person. Which means, just to spell this out a little bit more, whether the person who is pursuing an innocent life is a fellow Jew, whether they are a child, it makes no difference. We kill them, even if they're a fellow Jew, because they are threatening an innocent life. This is a fundamentally critical rule of war from a Jewish perspective. And you know what this rule of law is in war language? Preemptive striking. That's what it is. That's what the Torah is telling us to do. That's exactly what it describes. Someone is threatening you, preemptively strike. We don't wait for someone to die. We don't wait for the Houthis to finally get one of their projectiles or whatever it was, drones into Israel and kill someone to respond. The moment they send a single missile to Israel, they are threatening Jewish lives. We immediately respond. Preemptive strike. Does anyone know which war of all of the wars that Israel fought that we preemptively struck? Six-Day War. We all know that, right? Six-Day War. How long did that war last? Well, very good. What color was George Washington's white horse? I don't want to know right now, but I'll tell you why. Very good. So number one, we had a stunning victory, right? Number one, we had a stunning victory. Number two, I will say it was a miraculous success. And I want to emphasize the word miraculous for a reason. You may have heard, that they don't even study the Six-Day War because it was something beyond that defied logic. They can't even understand. And countless soldiers on the battlefields can tell you unbelievable things that happen that they can't explain. But here's why I want to tell you it was a miraculous success. It was a miraculous success for one reason. When the Jewish people follow what God tells us to do, God is there fully. Now, God's always with us. He's always with us. But in different measure, depending on how much we let him in. When we let God in fully, God is there fully. God was there during the Six-Day War. You know why? Because people were threatening us. And despite great resistance, we ultimately preemptively struck. And God said, let me show you what happens when you follow what I tell you to do in the Torah. 6 days. And that was with all of the threats that came from America. Don't dare preemptively strike. Right? We're not going to support you. Did Israel need America's support in the Six-Day War? No. Interesting. We'll take note of that as we discuss this further. 1981, Menachem Begin decided to do something with great chutzpah. Beautiful, we call it chutzpah de kedusha, holy chutzpah, which he had a lot of. Not always, but usually. And he bombed the Iraqi nuclear reactor. Run UN, condemning Israel. Even the United States, who behind closed doors was laughing at what Israel had done, so happy, right? They went and they condemned Israel. So Israel is condemned. There isn't a single country in the world today that doesn't praise Israel for that. Okay, so we need a little historic hindsight. We'll wait it out. But Israel showed strength. Nothing happened other than Israel doing something critical for its safety. Very critical for its safety. These were the times that we preemptively struck. And then, of course, the many other times, the most glaring I'm going to mention is the Yom Kippur War, that despite intelligence, despite knowing that our enemies are going to be attacking. It was a known fact that they were going to be attacking that afternoon. We lost 2,500 lives. And there's only one reason why that happened. Because we were unwilling to, we were ready to. There was a discussion whether we should, but we were unwilling to preemptively strike. 4 a.m. Yom Kippur morning, Golda Meir was awakened and informed that we have intelligence that tells us that I think it was Egypt and Syria are going to be attacking this afternoon. That's exactly what happened. That was exactly the intelligence. They had a meeting. And despite the head of the army saying, just a moment, despite the IDF's chief of staff, Dado Elazar, saying, right, that we must preemptively strike, Golda Meir said, I know all their arguments in favor of a preemptive strike, but I am against it. We don't know, any of us, what the future will hold, but there is always the possibility that we will need help, and if we strike first, we will get nothing from anyone. I want you to hear this very clearly because it's going to be a big point that we're going to be discussing. And I'm not here at all to criticize Golda Meir or any of the prime ministers, but we have to assess and compare it with what God tells us to do, so that we have clarity. Henry Kissinger, tragically, called up Golda Meir and said, don't you dare preemptively strike. Right? So they had that threat. On the second day of the war, you may or may not know this, Golda Meir was contemplating suicide. They thought there was a Holocaust happening in Israel at that point in the war. And then they made a heroic effort, and God made it successful, and they were able to eventually turn the tides, but with great, great losses. The critical point here is this, that Golda Meir said, none of us know, in her words, we don't know, any of us, what the future will hold. So what we do in such, what we have often done in such cases is, instead of dealing with what we do know, we lived in the fear of what we don't know. Really, that's what repeatedly has happened. Instead of living in what we do know, we lived in what we don't know. In English, ultimately, that equates to weakness. That's what it equates to. And the results show. And what happened in the Yom Kippur War is, the result of the devastation of the Yom Kippur War, despite the fact that we won the war, is that it weakened national confidence in Israel. It left long-lasting trauma. I can tell you, I know people here in the States who are living here because of the Yom Kippur War, because of what they experienced on the fronts in the Yom Kippur War. And I have to tell you that I can't blame them, because what they described to me, I mean, I don't know if I'd be sane after having experienced what they experienced. We lost international respect, and the perception of military superiority we lost as well. And perception, as they say, perception is everything, or perception is reality. And it undermined Israel's deterrence capabilities. So that had significant impact on us, very significant impact. Now, some argue it was worth it because we ended up getting an airlift. On the 9th day, America airlifted ammunition to us. On the 9th day. Do you remember what day we finished the 6-day war? Yeah, so America showed up on the 9th day for us. Which itself is a whole speculation anyway, because I would strongly argue that they would have shown up regardless. Whenever we need America, they will show up.